Wow, that's a really big question. It goes back to my childhood. I was a little kid, and I had a lot of energy, and I kind of ran around a little too much. And somehow or other, my mother figured out maybe I'll play some music for this kind of crazy, hyper young man, see if that might slow him down a bit. And I don't know what she put on. I think I was 4 years old or something. She put something on the stereo, and it could have been a soundtrack to a musical or something. And I just stopped everything, and I sat down in front of the stereo and sat there the whole day. And she realized this is very helpful. This my son has an interest in music. He seems transfixed by it, so I'll get a lot of records for him, and I'll play more music for him. And then as I got older, I became interested in the music of my father's record collection. My dad was a DJ in the 1950s and 60s, and whenever he was playing popular music of the day, and whenever the radio station would go out of business, my father would somehow inherit the record collection. And so there'd be records from the swing era, from the 30s and 40s in these record collections, but also from the 50s, Nat King Cole, Sinatra. So I became exposed to the music of my father's record collection and what he did as a DJ, and I became very, very interested, especially in big band swing from the 30s and 40s when I was a little kid. I wanted to be a part of this music. When I heard how exciting the sounds of big bands and swing style music, of course later I wanted to learn more about more modern approaches, bebop, Miles Davis, etc., all that. But when I was a kid, I wanted to be a part of this music. It just kind of reached out and grabbed me, and it made me just really happy. So somehow I wanted to be a part of a big band, regardless of what instrument I played. But then I was watching some film with my father. I think it was the Glenn Miller Story with Jimmy Stewart. A very sentimental movie about the life of Glenn Miller. And there were some scenes in the movie where, very visual, the 4 trombones would play and move their slides in at the same time in harmony. And I said, wow, what a sound. So I became interested in the trombone because of the sound of the instrument, particularly in the context of harmony and big bands. Only later did I want to become a soloist, an improvising soloist on the instrument. So it was the sound of the big bands, the sound of the trombone as an instrument in the section. And so I started playing the trombone, and I wanted to get very serious at it. And that was the way I could get into playing in big bands, was being a trombonist, whether a section player or a soloist. And that was my sort of way in, if you will, to being part of the sounds of big band music moment. It was in middle school, which is 7th grade, 8th grade, and 9th grade in here. And I guess I was 13 years old, and I was listening to a lot of Duke Ellington. That was the year I really discovered Duke Ellington's music. I was 13. And I was listening to things like, I didn't know it was Billy Strayhorn, but Satin Doll, Take the A Train, some of the big hits, and some other more obscure things. Wonderful Butter Jackson trombone solo on Mood Indigo, even Mood Indigo itself, with the harmony that Ellington created. And I was trying to transcribe Satin Doll, though. I was going to transcribe that for my little band. I'd formed a little band of middle school students, 3 horns and rhythm, and we were going to do a special concert as part of the spring concert. So I'm sitting there trying to figure out what the chords are to Satin Doll. And as easy as a tune as everyone thinks that is, if they actually go hear Billy Strayhorn's arrangement, they realize that there's some special stuff going on there, that Harry Carney actually has the melody down inside the saxophones on the baritone sax, that some of the chords are not what we think they are. Like D, bo, D, do, dot. It's actually D minor, C sharp diminished, da. So there's little things that are actually more special about that arrangement. It was the 5th bar I couldn't figure out. It was the A half diminished chord. Da, da, da. And everyone just plays A minor 7, D7. I was like, that's not what it is. There's something unique and special about that color. I didn't understand all my harmony yet at 13. And I wanted to play Satin Doll just the way it was originally recorded. I couldn't figure this chord out. So I brought it to my band director, and he said, well, I can't really help you. My mother actually saw all of this, and she said, you need theory lessons. So she signed me up at the Hartford Conservatory. At the age of 14, I started theory and arranging lessons every Saturday. Yeah, at 14. And I was able to figure out what Strayhorn meant from the sound of that chord. And then I started writing arrangements, and in high school I started writing big band charts. And I'm playing trombone, I'm becoming a better soloist, I'm starting to write big band music, and I dreamed of leading my own big band. So with my mother's help, the love of Ellington and Strayhorn, and I had an excellent high school big band. We were one of the best in the country at the time in West Hartford, Connecticut. Very proud of it. We'd go to Europe, make records at RCA studios. It was a very big deal. So everything just kind of kept building forward. Right. I'm very, very glad the time I spent with Bob Brookmeyer was during the BMI Composers Workshop, BMI Jazz Composers Workshop, 1988 until 1990. And it was the very first year of the program. Now it's a program, it started in New York City, and it was started by Manny Album and Bob Brookmeyer, and it was a free thing for professionals. It was a workshop for professionals. And I'm just glad that when I got the opportunity to study with Brookmeyer, primarily Brookmeyer, and some Manny Album, I was ready. I had already studied textbooks. I had already written many charts in college. I'd been listening to many, many records. Like I said, read a lot of textbooks. I was familiar with some things. I was familiar with the composing style of Thad Jones, Ellington to whatever degree I could, Bill Holman, the Basie writers, all my favorites, Gil Evans, to some degree. And so 2 years of Bob Brookmeyer was not about any of that stuff that he assumed you already walked in the door with. He said, this is a workshop to expand you. And his desire was to get you out of your comfort zone and write in ways that you normally don't write. He wanted us to write in things that were almost akin to serialism, pitch cells, forms that tell stories. One of our assignments was he wanted us to write a 10-minute, roughly, almost multi-movement pieces, but base it on a storyline. It could be the synopsis of a book. It could be a personal experience. And I picked an event that happened in my life, and I tried to write this piece. This happened, then this happened, then this happened, and portray it in music. I'd never thought about things like that before. I wrote 4 pieces for Bob. Gradually, he liked my writing more and more because I was getting away from my comfort zone. And I ended up writing a serial piece for the BMI band at the end. And I wasn't crazy about it. I was really trying things that I'd never done before. And I guess it came off okay, musical. And I wasn't crazy about it. And Bob, at the concert, I remember this clearly, he puts his arm around me and says, now you're uncomfortable. Now you're doing good work. And it stretched me. So when I came back to writing for my own projects and my own big band, I was never writing the same again. I thought about a lot of what Bob had to say about reuse of material, DNA of a piece. You know, why did you do it? Anything in any given moment. And nothing should ever be a cliche. It needs to be there for a reason. And that's really challenging. So Bob challenged me to really look at my writing and say, why did I do what I just did? What is holding this piece together so the listener has something to grab onto? So I thank him for that. Yes, I got to play with Maria's band quite a bit between around 1993 and 2005 or so. I was not in the band. I was a very frequent sub. And we went to college together. We went to University of Miami together for 1 year. And I was very impressed with her, extremely impressed with her. I have this wonderful story. In University of Miami, when I was a student, I was an undergrad student, jazz trombone. She was a graduate student composing arranging with Gary Lindsay. And I'm working on a score in a practice room, and she knocks on the door, and I open the door, and she introduces herself to me and says, I'm Maria Schneider. I see you're working on a score, and I'm one of the grad arrangers. And I said, I'm a trombone player. And she said, what are you working on? And I said, I'm working on a sax soli right now for my big band chart, a sax soli, you know. And so then I asked her, what are you working on these days, or for Gary? And she says, well, I'm trying to orchestrate a sunset. I mean, that's kind of different than just sitting there writing a sax soli. Getting the honor of playing in her band so often and being in the section. Again, it was just like another bump up for me in terms of way back when I was a kid, and I dreamed of being in the Count Basie band or something, playing trombone and writing charts, and then getting to play a little bit with the Woody Herman Orchestra I got to spend some time with, It was directed by Frank Tiberi, but it was still basically all the people that played with Woody Herman. Same with the Buddy Rich Memorial Band. Got to spend some time with them. Lionel Hampton on the road. Little stint with Jimmy Heath's big band. So I got to, and then of course Maria. You know, in many ways Maria, because she's so important as a writer and she's got such a big reputation now. It was really a very meaningful experience to be around those musicians playing her music. And, you know, I love Gil Evans too, but I think now I've listened to a lot of Maria's music that as much as I might be influenced or inspired by Gil on some of my music, I think Maria has definitely inspired me, and I know she's inspired legions of new composer arrangers. She's now one of those influential people. We just don't think of her as someone influenced by Gil Evans or Brookmeyer anymore. She herself is a voice that is influencing many, many people, and I'm glad for her. Well, I sang as a kid a lot. I sang in the choir. I sang even in some musicals when I was a little kid, you know, in 6th grade, 8th grade, 9th grade, whatever it was. But it was school. I didn't think it'd be a professional. I was having fun with it. It was a hobby. I liked the sound of vocal groups when I was a kid. I liked the Four Freshmen and the High-Lows and the Singers Unlimited. In high school, I became aware of these. But again, it was fun. It was a hobby. When I got serious about trying to be a band leader and a jazz musician in New York, primarily as a trombonist who led a quartet, I was making demos and getting gigs in small places around 1990, 91. I started somehow checking out Chet Baker and his recording. Someone said, you really should check out Chet Baker singing. I don't know where that conversation was. I'm embarrassed to say I didn't know that much about Chet singing in 1990 or 91. So I finally got some recordings. And I was stunned. I was like, what is this? This is really beautiful. This is like coming from a person who thinks like an instrumentalist. Like in his case, trumpet, obviously. He's using his voice and the sound of his voice as if he was playing through his trumpet. And I had really never heard that in any singer before. Someone who thinks of their body, their voice, as like another instrument. And I said, man, that's beautiful. So I started listening to those records. I started to sing along with the records. And I said, on my next quartet gig, I'm just going to sing a tune. And I'll scat sing, because I can scat sing because I have perfect pitch. And, you know, I've always been able to scat sing, but I never thought I had a voice. You wouldn't know today I have a little frog in my throat. But it was Chet Baker. Definitely Chet Baker. And then, of course, I started to take my own singing more seriously. I started to listen to more of the other great singers and see what I could learn from them. Nat Cole, Sinatra, John Hendricks, people like that, you know. And then because I enjoyed doing it so much, and apparently I was getting kind of good at it, I was a semifinalist in the Monk competition in '94. Again, Jimmy Heath hired me to be the featured vocalist for his big band in 1996 for a little tour and a stint on the Norway, the jazz cruise. And I just started enjoying it more and more. And so I kept doing it, and I started doing it with my own big band. Why not? It's my band. I can sing if I want, if it sounds okay. And I just really enjoy it. I put the trombone down, and when I sing, it's another way of looking at music. It's another way of expressing music. And it puts you almost into another head. And you have to deal with lyrics and that kind of thing. And scat singing is very freeing. When you have to do this to play very fast, the ability to be able to go quickly with almost minimal effort is really, it makes me feel very free. Because the trombone, I love it, but it's difficult. One must practice it. I got my first Grammy nomination in 2008 for my arrangement of Smile, and I do sing on that, obviously. You know about that. That helped me at the time because my big band had just started. We had made our first record, and this Grammy nomination definitely put me on the map a little more. Got me some radio play. Colleges started to become aware of who I was. They were requesting my arrangement of Smile after they heard it on the radio or wherever. And I decided to try and jump on it a bit. I created a little brochure. I hit just about maybe 50 or 55 colleges in the United States that have jazz programs. So the brochure, copy of the CD, I'd like to come out and do a clinic. As a result of that, I did about 5 or 6 different college visitations over the next 2 years. And I got to perform in a couple of bands in Europe. Also found out about this nomination. And then I started to get my music published. So Kendor Music was a big publisher, is a big publisher. They started publishing my music. And because of the success of my first record, First Flight, the Grammy nomination, and now my connection with Kendor Music, people are able to purchase and play my music literally around the world. There's a band in Japan that's playing my music, a band in Paris, a band in Russia, a band in Austria, and several colleges and professional bands across the country because of all those things. Now, there's this new round of nominations. I got nominated for 2 Grammys this year for my new record, this being 2015. More of the same. You know, colleges are inviting me to perform. I'm doing radio interviews. I got a lot of radio play this year, which I'm glad to say. And there's a gentleman in New York City, his name is Jonathan Schwartz. Pretty well-known radio announcer in New York City and across the country, who plays jazz and also American popular standards and some Broadway music. He's really well, has a wide audience, and for some reason or other, he has taken a liking to my vocal record, which I made last year, Voice Like a Horn, and this new big band record that was nominated for 2 Grammys called Strength in Numbers. And he plays me every weekend for almost 2 years now. And so it's funny because people who I would think of as normally like jazz snobs or something, you know, who would think, oh, I'd never listen to that guy playing, you know, standards and stuff. Everybody listens to this guy because people still like that music. They still like to hear Frank Sinatra sing excellent arrangements by Nelson Riddle and Billy May and stuff like that. So it's funny, all these people from different places that I heard you on Jonathan Schwartz on Saturday. It's like, you listen to that guy. He actually has an excellent show. So everybody listens to this guy, and they should, because he plays such a wide variety of music. So I've made a little splash in the world of the radio because of these records, which I'm very grateful for. And it's a difficult undertaking to make a big band record. I mean, there's certain costs, first of all, especially if you hire professionals you respect. And the guys in my band I've known for 20 years generally, or 25 years. So they're not going to, you know, if I pay them $10 less than they would expect, they're not going to give me a hard time about it. But I do want to pay them properly. So there's expenses for that because I want that kind of quality. I don't want just a cheap crew. Recording costs, if you go to an excellent studio, there's editing costs, there's artwork costs, there's PR and radio promotion. All of these things cost a fair amount of money if you want to make a splash with a big band. And when you have an excellent product, and I feel this last one particularly is a very good product, I'm proud of it. To anybody out there who wants to put a record out, spend the extra money if you have it, if you're so lucky to have it. Even if you don't, and not everyone's rich, I know that. I was lucky. I had money to be able to produce this record. But I think of making a record as starting a small business. If you make an excellent product and you get it out there and you don't scrimp too much and you put the extra effort in, both financially and effort-wise, then you have a much better chance of people hearing the music, getting some attention for yourself, which means not just vanity, but actually work. Your band can perform more because you're known. You'll get more chances to perform with students at colleges, and you are your own small business. So hopefully, after a few more gigs and things and residencies in colleges, I'll be able to pay back some of the money I lost to make this record. So even, you know, younger writers, and when they're ready, if you don't have the money on hand, maybe even take a personal loan out, because it may very well be worth it. You have to have all your goods together these days. You have to have an excellent record, packaged well, promoted well. There's so many people out there that do great work. You know, what's a radio station to do? What's a critic in a magazine to do? They get a stack of CDs every day. How are you going to stand out? And when you're ready and your product is ready and you can get the money somehow, don't hold back, because otherwise it'll kind of have some attention then go away, and then it's over. And you will regret not trying harder, not pushing harder. You know what I'm saying? So that's my advice for people. I've been teaching at the college level in the New York City area for 20 years. I've taught at 4 or 5 different colleges as an adjunct. For 1 year, I was a full-timer at one school, but that was short-lived. I wasn't ready for the commitment at the time. I was quite young, and I was a lot of things I wanted to do. So I kind of pulled myself out of that situation, went back to being an adjunct. Really glad I did, because I made 3 records and got 2 Grammy nominations. I got my band started. I'm glad I went back out there as a pro. I've been professor of jazz arranging at William Patterson University in Wayne, New Jersey, for 4 years now. I'm finishing my 4th year. I took over for a gentleman named Rich DeRosa, who is a well-known educator for many, many years. He was actually a teacher of mine when I was at Manhattan School of Music, when I got my master's years and years ago. So I've been teaching here for 4 years. I oversee the jazz composing arranging program, the master's program, which includes Cecil Bridgewater, as you know, Tona, and Jim McNeely, who you've also spent time with. So there's 3 of us teaching privately jazz composition arranging: myself, Cecil Bridgewater, who comes out of the legendary Thad Jones Mel Lewis Orchestra, and was a writer for that band too, and of course the well-known writer Jim McNeely. Students who come to this school and into the graduate program for composing arranging have the opportunity to spend time with all 3 of us, which is 3 different perspectives. We all bring something to the table in terms of our experience, our style of teaching, what we feel students need to know to be not just ready, but develop a sense of artistry to your music. And that generally comes later. At first, the first year of the students, we want to make sure that they're aware of the basics, well aware of the basics, even beyond an undergraduate's level, because you're really looking forward to do professional work when you leave school. Because of the quality of students we get here at Patterson, which is generally on a very high level, especially the instrumentalists and the improvisers, we're surrounded by excellent small group musicians, excellent rhythm sections, a very, very good big band. So it's nice that the graduate arrangers can take advantage of an excellent jazz big band anytime they want, virtually. I think you've been able to bring small projects in or small bits of work you've been doing, and the band will read it. So a big band is available to all the students year-round, school year-round, twice a week. And Dr. Dave Dempsey, who runs our program, is very, very supportive of our efforts in the graduate arranging program. So he'll drop everything if an arranger has some original music. It's great for the undergrad students in the band to hear the work of their fellow students too, whether they're graduate students or undergrad. So it creates a sense of life. There's multifaceted things going on here. I've enjoyed working with the Arrangers Combo, which is a specific ensemble made up only of the graduate arrangers. So they get to write for themselves, write for their colleagues, all in the same group. We discuss the material in ways that other combos can't, because they don't have the same kind of knowledge. So sure, you as a student learn from myself, Cecil, and Jim, but you also learn from your colleagues. How many times in rehearsal did someone say, hey, you know, this might be a better idea. Why don't you put that on flute? The drummer might chime in and say, you know, you probably should write this in the part, or change the rhythm groove to feel this way rather than that way. So it's a real like a cooperative collective. That's unique about our program, and I love being in the middle of that. Either I help myself or I watch you guys interact. You know, we have a film scoring class. We have most of the things you would get in any other school for a composition arranging degree we offer here at Patterson, and I'm thrilled. I mean, I finished my 4th year, and it's gone by like that. You know, being around people like yourself, the writers, the undergraduate performance majors I work with, the quality of music here, and the quality of the student body, and legendary, private teachers, the adjuncts. We got heavyweights on every chair. You know, it's pretty cool. Walk down the hall, and one minute I'm talking to Gene Bertoncini, then I turn around, I'm talking to Harold Mayburn, all on the same day. You know, you don't get that at many places. So I've enjoyed working with you personally. You've been one of my more favorite students over the years. You and I have seen what's nice about our relationship as a teacher to student is some of the things that I love. You can't love everything equally well, and if you do, who are you kidding? But many of the things that have touched my heart musically, I know touched your heart. And that was great having 3 teachers. So our time together, I think, was nurturing what we both shared in common in terms of what we loved, as opposed to maybe some of the time you spent with Cecil Bridgewater or with Jim McNeely. So that worked out quite well, I think. And that's another thing that I think our program, having 3 different teachers, you benefit from, because we were able to nurture what you were already doing pretty well. Now you do better. And then you learn something new and different with McNeely or with Cecil, and you walk out of here with 3 good professional perspectives on composing and arranging. That's not something you get elsewhere too, and I'm proud of that.